On today's Locked On Thunder podcast, the Oklahoma City Thunder get their first win of the year. SGA scores 33 points, but that wasn't the best stat from him in this game. Plus, Tre Mann is a legitimate breakout candidate. All that and more coming up on today's Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your teams every day.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your teams every day. I am your host, Rylan Stiles. You can follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. Email the show, LOThunderPod@gmail.com. On today's show, brought to you by LinkedIn, it is going to be about your Oklahoma City Thunder getting their first win of the season so far, beating the LA Clippers in this game behind SGA's 33 points, a 21-0 run in the third quarter. Tre Mann, fantastic as well. Plus, the bench got a huge lift from Kenrich Williams and Mike Muscala that I want to talk about as well. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. For the first time, users, they can always use the code LOCKEDON for their $100 deposit match up to, of course, $100 on 100% is the deposit match, but also brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn is there for you to help you find better and more qualified candidates by going to linkedin.com/lockedon. So we start in this game the way we always do with our game overview. And around 2:30, SGA was upgraded from out to questionable. Then we heard from Mark pregame. SGA was in with no limitations, and he played his normal rotational minutes and normal rotational slot in this game. And in this game, he was awesome. Plus, of course, we're going to talk about that later on, but Josh Giddey remained out with that ankle sprain that he suffered in on Sunday. Jalen Williams is out with that orbital bone fracture that he had in Game 1. Chet Holmgren out, of course, for the entire season. And the Thunder also did not have Lindy Waters or Eugene Omoruyi because they want to limit their days. Of course, on the two-way contract, you can only play 50 games in the NBA. They didn't want to use one of those 50 games in this one, so they're both out and inactive with the blue. And for the Clippers, they did not have Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, or Marcus Morris, so it was not the full-strength Clippers, but this Clippers team is still very deep and still very good, and the Thunder got a very quality win in win number 1 on the season. SGA is the big story. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander continues to play at an all-star clip, and he has shown all-NBA potential in this game. So let's start with not the 33 points. Let's start with Shai's defense. He's been incredible. He's engaged. He's using his length, his effort. He's fighting through screens. He got 3 blocks. He got 3 steals in this game. And Mark talked about it. Mark talked about how, the difference in Shai defensively this year versus some of the stuff that we've seen in the past from him is the engagement and overall kind of want to. And Shai echoed that same sentiment, that it's kind of more so the want to do these things in general. And then Mark said it really comes from and it is kind of derivative from wanting to be a leader. So to be a leader, you got to go on both ends of the floor. And I think that that's very, interesting to point out about Shai. Because here's a guy that is the offensive weapon, the offensive workhorse for this Thunder roster, for this Thunder team, right? He is the guy that is going to, get this team where it needs to go offensively. And how many times in the NBA do we see your offensive catalyst, your offensive juggernaut, not play a lick of defense, just not even participate on that end of the floor? And it's accepted, and it's acceptable at this level. But for Shai to want to exhaust that energy, to be your number one guy offensively on that end of the floor offensively, but also want to play his fair share of defense and play a really good defensive game is also impressive. And so the engagement and the drive mixed with his wingspan, mixed with him filling out his body, allows him to unlock this really good defensive potential. Now, will he be an elite defender? I think that would be premature to say, a bit of a stretch to say, but he can be a really good defender because he has those intangibles. If you have Shai locked in and you have Shai playing the best he can play and giving you all the effort he can on that end of the floor with his length, with his instincts, with his body, then his switchability factor and his ability to cover ground and make the smart plays on both ends of the floor opens up so much for you. And so it makes you kind of think about what this team can be when it's maximized and it's playing in the playoffs, where you're kind of more in these half-court settings and you're kind of more focused on each and every possession of a game. But Shai's defense stood out in a big way. And I think that that's a credit to Mark. I think that Mark deserves a ton of credit in getting guys like Shai and guys like Tre Mann to get involved on the defensive end. Talked to Tre after the game, and Tre told the media that the reason why he came back and had defense as a focus is because Mark told him it needed to be. And Mark told him, and basically alluding to the fact that Mark's expectations are, hey, if you want to play, you're going to play defense. Well, what do these two guys do? These two just kind of perennial scorers and your two best scorers on the roster in this one, they were engaged defensively, and Shai got 3 steals and 3 blocks and played really good defense overall. Tre Mann drew 2 charges and got 2 steals as well on the defensive end. These are two guys that are just kind of putting it all out there defensively, and credit to them for being able to do that, being able to play good defense and rotating well and fighting over screens and getting steals and drawing charges, putting their body on the line, taking that kind of abuse to draw a charge. I don't know if you guys have ever tried to take a charge. Luckily, I hope that you haven't from NBA players, because it would not end well. NBA players going full speed at you, lowering their shoulder, just colliding with you is not fun. To bounce back from that and then go on the other end of the floor and try a step back 3 probably is very, very painful. If I had to guess, that's very, very painful. So credit to these two guys for being able to have a motor that allows them to play at a high level on both ends of the floor all night long. And whenever the team really needed them to, because they were like the only two true offensive weapons that the Thunder had. I mean, the first 12 points of the night were scored 6 from Tre, 6 from Shai. And it just kind of was that balanced scoring attack. Shai finishes with 33 points, 8 assists, 5 rebounds, 2 for 2 from 3. Insane mid-range jumpers, insane mid-range finishes. Also really good at the rim. I think that Shai also showed some really awesome passes in this one, some really awesome potential as a playmaker in general, and also went to the line 9 times, cashed in all 9 of them. Tre Mann finishes with 25 points, 4 assists, 4 rebounds, 2 steals, 2 charges drawn, and shot 41% from the floor. So those two guys were your offensive catalyst in this one, but credit to Mark and credit to this organization for getting the defensive side of the ball right with these two guys. Because if your stars are playing defense, if your bucket getters are playing defense, then that trickles down to the rest of the roster. Because who are you to not play defense if the dude averaging 30 points, SGA, who's going to be an all-star, who could be an all-NBA kind of guy, is playing on both ends of the floor as hard as he can. And with that, with playing on defense and playing the passing lanes, getting deflections, getting steals, it allows the Thunder to play fast. It allows them to get in transition, what this team is built to do. This team is built to have 4 or 5 ball handlers on the floor at the same time, and playmakers on the floor at the exact same time, to where if anyone grabs a defensive rebound, if anybody gets in the passing lanes and gets a steal, if anyone scurries for a loose ball, then it can spark a quick boom, boom, boom pace down the floor, fast break, open look, splash, and then the 3, transition 3, or of course with a nice easy finish at the rim. So all in all, Tre Mann and SGA in this game played exactly the way that you needed your 2 best players to play. And what's fascinating is Tre Mann's potential as this really solid defender that can switch, that can do some things in the passing lane with deflections and steals, but also draw you some charges as well. I think he's up to 3 charges, or maybe even 4 this year, but he's at least gotten 3 that I vividly remember, 2 this game and then 1 in a game prior this year, where he's up to 3 charges drawn already through 4 games. This this is a kind of trend building for him now that he's comfortable getting in position and kind of taking that blow to stop a possession and, of course, create one for the Thunder. Whenever these two guys can play this way, and then you're going to add Chet Holmgren, who's really good on the defensive end of the floor. You're going to add Josh Giddey, who like these two, has shown way more defensive engagement and activity than what we saw last year, has made that kind of leap as well. You're going to add Jalen Williams, who has defense as one of his calling cards, and talks about how he wants people to respect his defense more and understand how good he is on the end of the floor more, that he thought that got overlooked a little bit in the pre-draft process. So you have these two guys playing hard defense as prolific scorers, and then all of your other players, right? You're going to slide in at the top of your roster, right? Chet Holmgren, your second overall pick. He already has defense as a pride of his. Josh Giddey, 6th overall pick. He already has defense as something that he is actively getting better at. Jalen Williams, your lottery pick, 12th overall. He has defense as his calling card. So building a team that's made up of guys who want to play defense is half the battle. It's half the battle to get these guys to want to be engaged and want to play on that end of the floor. And from there, that's where guys like Mark and last year Cam Woods really, really help engineer a really solid defensive unit for the Thunder. Now, coming up, we'll talk about the Thunder bench. We'll talk about how the Thunder won this game. But first, I want to tell you right now about our good friends over at LinkedIn, folks. LinkedIn is incredible. It is what you want to go check out. If you want to go and make a hire for your small business, you want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Go right now, add the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile and spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. That's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number one in developing quality hires versus leading competitors. Folks, go right now. Go check out LinkedIn Jobs, and LinkedIn Jobs will help you find qualified candidates fast and efficiently. Go there right now. Go to LinkedIn.com/LockedOnNBA. That's LinkedIn.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions to apply. Check it out today. LinkedIn.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free and get qualified candidates faster for your job. We are back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I am your host, Rylan Stiles. You can follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. In this game, the Thunder also got a really, really good game from Mike Muscala and Kenny Hustle. Off of the bench, Mike Muscala starts the second half, turns in 8 points, 10 rebounds, a block, 2 assists, only 1 missed shot. Kenny Hustle, 10 points, 2 assists, 7 rebounds, a block, and 62% shooting from the floor. Mentioned it in the Minnesota game in the season opener, not the home opener, the season opener. Without these two guys playing well, there's just too many obstacles to overcome in terms of winning games. With these two guys playing well, though, it unlocks so much for this team overall, and it was really good to see them have a really solid night. In this game, the Thunder really have positive moments to take from everyone on the roster. I think that even Usman Jang, the box score will not leap out at you, but his comfortability shooting the basketball and looking the part as an NBA player at this point in the season and in game 4 of his rookie year, that's already very encouraging. In this game, the Thunder grew a 26-point lead. They had a 21-0 run in the third because of that defense that we laid out there in the first segment. Whenever you can get turnovers and get stops, then that's whenever you can start stacking positive possessions on positive possessions. I don't know that right now in the current state of this roster, in the current state of this healthy, this roster health-wise, much less whenever it's fully healthy or whatever. I don't know that right now that with this current Thunder team is built to play a slow half-court game yet. I just don't think that that's what they're kind of built for. I think that right now they're built for pushing the pace and getting mismatches and getting advantages in their favor to help them score offensively. And you do that by getting stops. And stops being, of course, defensive rebounds, steals, drawing a charge, whatever the case is, those all give you certain advantages, and especially rebounds and steals and blocks give you the advantage number-wise on the other end, running back down the floor. And that helps you score the ball offensively. That would not come as easy to this team in a more slow-paced, slow-it-down kind of game. The Clippers never led by more than 2 points in this one. There was 8 lead changes, but the Clippers never could push their lead past 2 points. This game was tied 6 times. The Thunder win the rebounding battle again. They won it 69-56. The Thunder had 5 turnovers, and the Clippers had 18. This was a perfect storm for the Thunder to win this game. Like they did everything right except for shooting threes. And if they would have shot threes better than a 13% clip, this would have been an even uglier loss for the Clippers and an even better win for the Thunder. Because you look back, the Thunder win the rebounding battle, 69-56. They have 5 turnovers. The Clippers have 18. The Thunder shot worse than LA from the floor and from 3, but still came away with this massive win. In the paint, the Thunder won the paint battle 62-48. The Thunder won second chance points 26-12, and the Thunder won fast break points 17-9. No one on the Clippers had 20 points. Of course, Shai went for 33, Tre Mann went for 25 for the Thunder, and both teams ended up, though, with 4 in double figures. Just no one on the Clippers had 20 points. No one had more than 15 in this game even for the Clippers. Like, this game all lined up for the Thunder, and if the Thunder shot better than 13% from 3, it would be a knock your socks off, just incredible 20-plus point win, 30-plus point win for OKC. And they didn't have to shoot that much better than 30%. It was like a marginally better than 13% from 3, and they would have had a much more impressive win on the scoreboard in terms of point differential. But all that matters is you get the win in general. All that matters is you walk away with the W, and the Thunder do that 108-94 in this one. And who knows who will play on Thursday for the Clippers. The Thunder in this game start SGA, Tre Mann, Aaron Wiggins, Lu Dort, and Jeremiah Robinson-Earl. In this game, those were the guys that led the team in minutes for the most part. Of course, it was SGA and Tre, who got 36 minutes each. Then you had Wiggins get 28 minutes, Lu Dort get 25 minutes, and Kenny Hustle get 25 minutes. So Jeremiah Robinson-Earl missed out by being and completing the kind of starting in minutes by 3 minutes. So you know that we've been doing this exercise where we take the starters, then take the 5 biggest minute earners. This time, the only discrepancy is dropping JRE for Kenny Hustle, who had 3 more minutes than JRE did in this game. Poku only had 16 minutes. Baisley only had 19 minutes in this one. I didn't think that either of them played bad. I think that both of them played their role in a fine way, but they just weren't the hot hand. I mean, Muscala was great, especially in drop coverage. And Muscala described, going back to SGA, the way that SGA fights through screens allows Muscala to play drop, and that's kind of what the Thunder want to do in pick and roll coverage. I think that Muscala played great. I think that Kenny Hustle had his best game of the year so far, albeit, of course, on a young season, but best game of his year so far. Plus, you have Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, who, despite going 0 for 7, did everything else well, just didn't really score the ball in this one. And Wiggins, he shot 35% from the floor, but I think that he did everything well in the sense of 10 rebounds, 11 points, 3 steals, a block. Like he did everything on the floor, just did not shoot efficiently. And that's a totally different story. Now, coming up, let's talk about the rest of this Thunder team, including Lu Dort, after yet another disappointing night for Lu Dort. We are back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Now, I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Thunder your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you talking Thunder basketball. For your next listen, though, go check out the Game to Game podcast. What the Game to Game podcast is the biggest storyline from every single NBA game from the night before. You can get all of that down to the storyline of every team of every market in under 20 minutes. It's that simple. Go check it out in the Locked On NBA feed, on the Locked On podcast feed, or on Locked On YouTube, anywhere you get your podcast from, and of course on YouTube as well. So I love Game to Game because as you know, I mean, if you're going to invest in 82 Thunder games, you're bound to miss some stuff that happens outside of the Oklahoma City bubble, right? So I listened to that podcast and I listened to all the perspectives on the game, what each host thinks is the biggest takeaway for their team. And if a headline grabs you, boom, you've got your locked on listen pattern for that day. You know, if there's a huge storyline out of the Mavericks, how they blew this game against the Pelicans, I'm going to check out Locked On Mavericks and see what Nick and Isaac have to say about blowing this lead to the Pelicans, who were shorthanded and didn't have Zion or BI. Like, how in the world did the Mavericks lose that game? Like, how in the world did they do that? I want to listen to Locked On Mavs and find that out, because I listened to game to get to that point of wanting to know more about the national side of basketball. So check it out today, Locked On NBA, wherever you get your podcast from. Also, thank you so much for being here on Locked On Thunder. Subscribe for free across all platforms so you never miss an episode. And on YouTube, drop below how you feel about the Thunder getting their first win of the season. So Lu Dort, right? We've talked about it. Off to a rough start. And there's so many ways to go about this. Lu Dort goes 1 for 11 from the floor, 0 for 6 from 3. Had an air ball in this game even. And before the game, Mark was asked, do you want Lu shooting more in the corner or above the break? It's something that I've talked about a ton on this podcast, and Andrew Schlecht of The Athletic asked Mark about it today. And Mark said, open. I want Lu Dort shooting whenever he's open. Obviously, your coach is going to back you publicly and has to back you publicly. And I think that Mark truly believes that Lu Dort should shoot the ball whenever he's open. And I believe that Mark thinks and is telling Lu that, when you're open, no matter where you're at on the floor, shoot the ball. We trust you. We've got your back. If you miss, we'll get a rebound. If you make it, great, we'll get back on defense and play. And after the game, whenever Lu struggled again, Mark said that, a lot of these struggles from Lu are on Mark. It's on the way that Mark is coaching Lu and trying to get Lu to do even more and trying to get Lu to evolve as a player. And he mentioned, the Thunder are having Lu go out there and guard the best competition each and every night, and then asking him to put even more on his plate offensively. And so that leads to some of these downtrodden games. My opinion with Lu Dort, I've often said that I think that when this roster is fully fleshed out, so you've got Shai healthy, you've got Josh Giddey healthy, you've got Tre Mann healthy, you've got Chet Holmgren healthy, you've got whoever the Thunder draft in 2023, let's not even worry about that for right now, but whoever that may end up being, all of those things, you've got Jalen Williams healthy, all of those things, those 6 things, push Lu Dort down the offensive hierarchy to the point where all you have to ask of him is to be a really good cutter. Maybe even put him in scenarios where he's screening for SGA or screening for Josh Giddey, who's a really good cutter, where he's a really good guy that shoots in the corner, which he shot 44% in the corner last year, and he can do that at an effective clip. Where that's kind of all you're asking from him. And so by result, his numbers go up. And that makes fans happier, of course, and that makes things feel better and look better in the grand scheme of things for the Thunder. And, of course, he still gets to retain that incredible defensive prowess. Mark called him a defensive animal after the game. That's kind of how I envision Lu Dort's role going from here on out in his career. I could be wrong about that. That's just kind of how I envision it unfolding for him. As far as this season goes, it's not fun. It's not sexy, but I do think that the correct take or opinion is to just wait. Because, yes, he's going 1 for 11 from the floor and 0 for 6 from 3 in an air ball. He had 2 rebounds in this one. Still played really good defense. But let's just remember that this is 4 games. This is a 4-game sample size. If Lu Dort had this same 4-game sample size in, say, January, it is nowhere near as heightened as it is right now. Let's also not forget that in Summer League, fans wanted Tre Mann cut from the team because he wasn't playing well in Summer League, and now you're seeing his progress and his improvement in an actual NBA setting, which is not apples to apples in that comparison, but it's to say for Tre Mann, we overreacted to a 4-game sample size of Summer League to a unbelievable degree. Let's not make that same mistake if you're out there saying anything about Lu Dort and his future with the team. Let's not make that same mistake about Lu Dort that we did with Tre Mann in Summer League. Like I told you in Summer League, calm down. It's only 4 games. I'll tell you right now, calm down. It's only 4 games. And let's just say that it never gets better. Let's just say that Lu Dort continues to struggle and just does not have it offensively this year. I still don't believe that is a point of panic for the Thunder or the fan base. It shouldn't be anyway, because of what I just mentioned, where in the ideal world, this isn't Lu's role, in my opinion. In the ideal world, whenever this thing is fully fleshed out, I don't believe that this evolution of Lu Dort and you putting so much on his plate offensively, I don't think that that's what the Thunder want to do long term. I think that they have the luxury and they have the ability to try that in this season and try to develop that and cultivate that. But if it doesn't work out, it's not the end of the world. And if it does work out, well, that's just gravy on top of everything else that Lu Dort can already do at a very high level. But obviously, it's disappointing for everyone involved that Lu Dort can't get these shots to fall. But also, as Mark pointed out in the pregame, if he knocks, if 3 of these shots don't rim out, his percentages skyrocket, and we're again not paying attention to this storyline. If just 3 balls, circle around the rim and eventually fall in instead of falling out, this is a non-storyline. So it's kind of finicky in that way. It's kind of up and down in that way, in terms of the way that we discuss these things a lot of the time. Because he is shooting open shots. Like, there's a few times that he forces it. There's a few times where, hey, you just shot with like 19 seconds left on the shot clock. Maybe don't do that one. Or, hey, the guy's hand's right in your face and you shot. But those are few and far between. Mostly these are wide open shots and like really good looks that you want him taking that just aren't falling right now. He's not having the shooter's role, the shooter's luck, if you will. And so you want to keep at it with him. He's not doing anything necessarily wrong. And I think that it shows that the process is right because he hasn't lost confidence at all. And to me, for him to not lose confidence after the poorest start is a testament not only to him in general, but also a testament to him, I think, believing he's on the right track, right? And he's doing everything right in preparation for games, during games, in decision-making while playing the game, that he believes that with everything that he's doing, eventually the results will come as well. And so that's where I'm at with all of this. Everything looks good. What Mark is saying about it is good. What Lu is saying about it is good. The decision-making is good. Everything is good except for the stat line. And it's a 4-game stat line. So I'm going to give it more than 4 games. And then we'll readdress it. But obviously it's not a good stat line after 4 games. There's nothing else to say about that. But it is great that the Thunder got their first win of the year. Now, we're going to have a mailbag podcast, so drop your questions down below on YouTube or on Twitter at Ryland_Styles. That'll be out later on today. And we're going to recap the Clippers game from Thursday on Friday. And on Thursday, we're going to discuss this stock watch scenario. What players am I buying and selling stock in after a week of the season? And let's take it around the NBA also. What NBA players in general are we buying and selling stock from at this point in the season? So until then, be good and be good to one another.